If I'm ready, okay. A, meeting opening. A1, call to order. A2, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now observe a 30-second moment of silence. Thank you. We'll move to A3, adoption of the agenda. Are there any consent agenda items that a board member would like to have discussed as an action item? Hearing none, do I have a motion that the governing board adopt the meeting agenda?
I move that we adopt the meeting agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Oropesa. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Moving to B, public comment. B1, we'll go to Ms. Shauna Becker.
Good evening, President Conchas, members of the Governing Board, and Dr. Myers. I stand before you today with great pride as I have just completed a significant milestone in my professional journey. This past Tuesday, several colleagues from Alhambra School District and myself completed our final class, earning our master's degree in leadership and administration. This achievement was made possible through a collaboration between our district and American Intercontinental University. And I'm just here today to express my deepest gratitude for your guys' decision to nurturing leaders within our district. Your supportive partnership has truly opened doors for all of us, and I am immensely grateful. I'd like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to Dr. Myers for inspiring me to pursue this degree. Your confidence and belief in me has helped me discover the leader within myself, something that you recognized before I did. I want to thank Dr. Spearman, my principal, for her invaluable mentorship and guidance through this journey, and the countless meetings and hours that she dedicated to my learning and fostering growth in ways that I never anticipated. Thank you to Claire and Melissa, who were our go-to people throughout this endeavor. We needed someone to advocate for us on our behalf or a shoulder to cry on. They were always there with open doors and open arms. And your guys' support meant more than I could ever express. To our classmates, I'm just grateful for the insight and lessons that I gained from them. I'm thankful that we didn't have to navigate this experience alone. I knew that at any moment I could reach out to any of them and we would tackle our challenges together. And I've made a lot of great friendships and just partnerships through this program, and I'm going to cherish those for a lifetime. Lastly, I just want to thank my friends, colleagues, and family for their unwavering support, my union people who kept cheering me on along the way, because I couldn't accomplish it without them. They were my cheerleaders to help keep me motivated, because it was an intense program. Their encouragement helped me cross the finish line with a 4.0. And so I just want to thank them. This experience has been really transformative. I grew not only academically but personally. I've gained valuable insight into myself and my capabilities as a leader, and I just really look forward to continuing that journey, to continuing that growth, and further developing as a leader within our district. I hope that you guys continue this program because this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Our district is stronger because of programs like this and individuals who I've mentioned through this speech, individuals who are committed to fostering growth and who empower our successes, who help us reach our full potential. I'm excited for my future and the opportunities to contribute even more to our district. So thank you guys. That's it.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to Matthew Henry and Corina Pompa. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, members of Alhambra Elementary School District Board. Oh, is this on? This one here? Okay, perfect. Good evening, members of the Alhambra Elementary School District Board. My name is Matthew Henry, and I'm here today not only on behalf of the Pompa family, but also on behalf of our community with the Ramona Baker Foundation. I have 3 children who attend ASD schools, including one enrolled in the self-contained autism program at Sophia East. I'm joined by Karina Pompa, the mother of my children, who I met at Andalusia Middle School in 8th grade nearly 20 years ago. Needless to say, ASD raised us, and we are proud to be part of this community. I stand before you today to address a critical issue affecting children in our community: equitable access to education, particularly the accessibility of special education services within this district. As both a parent and a former special education director, I've experienced firsthand the unreasonable barriers in obtaining the necessary supports and resources from this district's ESS department. Over the past 2 years, I struggled to communicate with the special education director in my previous roles with AZCase and SEAA, but most recently, and more importantly, I faced significant challenges in securing appropriate services for my son, Ethan, who transitioned from full-time applied behavior analysis therapy to enrolling with ASD. After Ethan's initial IEP meeting in May, we requested a release of information consent form so that his ABA therapist could continue to provide services on campus, supporting him in accessing the general education curriculum. Our goal was to integrate him with his non-disabled peers in his least restrictive learning environment someday. Despite multiple follow-ups and requests, we received no response from the district. It wasn't until I took the drastic step to request an IEP amendment to include ABA therapy services, in which the district would then have to fund, that we saw any action. This delay has unfortunately set Ethan back in receiving crucial support, which may affect his learning and development. I share this frustrating experience with Ms. Gonzalez, and I want to stress the importance of notifying the special education director when an advocate is attending an IEP meeting, especially one as knowledgeable and passionate about advocating as advocate joining my son's IEP meeting on September 20th. I am my son's biggest advocate, as every parent should be. But what about the children whose parents don't speak English or don't have the same resources? If I, with 2 master's degrees, had to go through this, what must the process look like for other families in our community facing many adversities, including language barriers? While a district provides resources about the child find process, there is a concerning lack of direct access to the special education department, including teachers who are teaching an autism self-contained program without the appropriate background or education. Today, I call for action to establish clear, accessible communication channels for all families seeking special education services. We must remove barriers that prevent students in our district from accessing the free, appropriate public education as outlined under the Individuals with Disabilities Act. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to C, consent agenda. C1, approval of consent agenda items. I call for a motion that the governing board approve consent agenda items C2 through C18.
I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items C2 through C18.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Oropesa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Ms. Perry?
Good evening, President Conchas, governing board members, and Dr. Maez. Before I introduce our newest leader to Alhambra, I'd like to briefly highlight the selection process for the Executive Director of Educational Services. We had 14 applicants for the position, with 4 selected for interviews. Our 7-member panel unanimously recommended the candidate this evening. And with your approval now of tonight's consent agenda, I am thrilled to introduce Dr. Lindsay Stoller-Slover as our new Executive Director of Educational Services. Dr. Stoller-Slover most recently served as the Director of Exceptional Student Services in the Maricopa Unified School District. Her career includes roles as grant coordinator and elementary school principal, and notably, and what I'm proud of as well, assistant principal here in the Alhambra School District for 3 years. We are excited to welcome her back to the Alhambra family. So it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Lindsay Stoller-Slover.
President Conchas, governing board members, and Superintendent Dr. Maez, I am deeply grateful for your approval of my appointment as the Executive Director of Educational Services. Tonight I'm joined by my family, my parents, John and Judy, who are both retired public educators, a retired principal, retired teacher, My daughter Clara, who's a high school senior, and I have a son at U of A who's in the College of Ed, studying to become a special education teacher. So tonight, I began my administrative career here in Alhambra as an outreach coordinator at Cordova. And there I developed a strong philosophy in doing what's best for students. And I carried that with me from my time as a principal, a coordinator, and as a director as well. I'm a firm believer in strengths-based leadership and working collaboratively with teachers, staff, administrators to identify what people do well and use that to positively impact student achievement. So I am excited about this opportunity with Alhambra. I feel like I'm coming home. It's a great feeling, and I really look forward to making a positive impact on our students. Thank you so much.
And if we could please have your family stand and be acknowledged. Thank you so much for all your support, and welcome to Alhambra. Moving to D1, financial report. The submitted monthly report provides the district's financial status as of the report date 9/3/2024. Moving to D2, payroll and expense vouchers. I call for a motion that the governing board approve the payroll and expense vouchers.
I move that the governing board approve the payroll and expense vouchers.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Oropesa. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes. Moving to E, board policies. E1, I call for a motion that the governing board approve the first reading of policy KHA, public solicitations in schools.
I move that we approve the motion. Wait, I'm sorry.
First reading.
The first reading, policy KH8, solicitations in schools.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. Is there a second?
Um,
Thank you, Mr. Oropesa. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving to E2. I call for a motion that the governing board approve the first reading of policy EEAG, student transportation in private vehicles.
I move that the governing board approve the proposed change to policy EEAG.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. Is there a second?
a second.
Thank you, Mr. Oropesa. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Moving to E3. I call for a motion that the governing board approve the first and adoption of policies ACA, sexual harassment, policy ACAA, Title IX, sex discrimination, policy GBK, staff grievances, and policy JII, student concerns, complaints, and grievances.
I move that we approve the first reading and adoption of policy ACA, policy ACAA, policy GBK, and policy JII.
Thank you, Mr. Oropesa. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 That motion passes. Moving to F, comments and communications. F1, comments from governing board members.
I just real quick wanted to share a highlight. I went to the law conference last week for ASBA. Very insightful and very particular to law, so I'm not sure how people feel about that, but I enjoy it. It was largely talking about AI and the responsibilities that we have, so that was nice to hear. And then also just civil rights and our First Amendment rights and just kind of being more aware of those features. So it was really nice. I also was a delegate for Alhambra Elementary School District, and it went by a lot faster than last year. I think we went straight to business. Everybody had a common goal there. There was a few that probably wanted to advocate a little bit more on their behalf, but overall it was a great weekend, so thank you for that.
Well, I do want to thank the Pompa family for coming and to advocating for their students and their families. Thank you for coming here and being part of public comment in our meeting today. I also saw on social media that the Arizona Cardinals visited CGP.
So that's pretty exciting. I also just want to give a shout out to all our campuses for keeping up with their social media, because I get to, on my breaks, I get to scroll and see what y'all are doing. And some very exciting things coming up as well. Moving to F2, Governing Board Direction and/or Agenda Item Requests. Hearing none, moving to F3, Comments from Superintendent and Executive Team.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we will start our updates with Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you. Good evening, Governing Board President Mr. Conchas, Governing Board members, and Superintendent Dr. Maez. We are very excited and very fortunate and appreciative to be part of the Salvation Army Christmas Angels program again this year. What's very exciting about this year is we are able to support 800 families. 800 families. It's amazing. And so we do this work through our dedicated people of parent volunteer coordinators, our counselors and social workers, and our nurses and health services department. They collaborate together, they register our families, and families can begin picking up their gifts as early as the 1st of December. So a lot of work in between now and December, but many blessings for many kids out there. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening again, President Conchas, Governing Board members, Dr. Maez, and the Alhambra community. I always love this part, so I get to share exciting news sometimes. We are really excited to share that this evening, and probably it might be pending in your direct deposit very soon, our fall recruitment and retention stipend has been issued, and you may have seen that on part of the consent agenda this evening as well. So the $1,500 stipend went to all of our staff. That began before August 30th, and I know I saw mine pending in direct deposit. I'm excited about it. It'll be coming in tomorrow, Friday the 13th. The only thing scary are those taxes. So other than that, it'll be a great way to start your weekend. I hope you all enjoy it, and thank you so much for being part of the district.
Thank you, President Conchas, members of the board, and Dr. Maez. I'm pleased to provide an update on our district standard field trip project. Our efforts to ensure that every Alhambra student participates in an enriching grade level field trip is already showing progress. This week marked the launch of the field trip project with James W. Rice and Barcelona leading the way. Both schools took their 6th graders to the Arizona State Capitol Museum for an immersive educational experience. And the success, I have to give the shout out to, the success would not have been possible without the tireless efforts and collaboration of each site's grade level point of contact, along with Ms. Nikki Wilson, our district field trip coordinator.
Good evening to our president, our board, and Dr. Maya. So good to be back in Alhambra again, and so good to see Dr. Lindsay. Glad to have her back. Welcome home. I just want to say I'm excited that we continue the work of Leader in Me. Over the next few weeks, we will begin our Lighthouse team meetings, where teams at schools come together in 3 teams, one of leadership, one with culture, and one with academics, and they'll start to create action steps, which will then again help to saturate our schools with those next levels of leadership. And so I'm excited about having Molly come to each of our schools and getting our Lighthouse teams on fire.
Thank you all. This evening, first I want to begin by welcoming Dr. Slover to our team, and thank you to her family for supporting her as she engages in the great work of making a difference in the lives of our children here in Alhambra. Also, I'd like to thank everyone here for joining us this evening. I know our leaders, I've enjoyed, yesterday I enjoyed the Leadership Academy as everyone was digging into data and learning about the different subgroups, and I know ESS specifically subgroups, how our EL students are doing, and setting goals and creating plans on how we can ensure that all students are learning at high levels. And so thank you to our principals who led that work alongside with their assistant principals and coaches. And so, and you all should know, I was sharing with President Conchas that the presenter that we had said he was very impressed and hadn't seen such positive energy, excitement, as you all were digging into the data. So thank you all for your hard work. And I know, thank you to our educational services team for planning that great work. Even as I visited campuses today, I got to see you all still at the campuses continuing the conversations from yesterday. So thank you all. Lastly, I'd just like to highlight the fact that today is my favorite day of the month, where I got to meet our AAA students, my advisors, who I will be meeting with once a month, each month of the school year, to learn from them, their experiences, to ensure that we provide the highest quality of education for them. Some of the things they celebrated today were the leadership opportunities that you're providing for them in our schools, They celebrated opportunities to get involved in enrichment activities, and they celebrated the hard work of their teachers. They're very appreciative. And for those, and they also said they appreciated seeing our principals checking in on seeing how they're doing. So thank you. And then, of course, when I asked how can we improve, as much as it leaves me with a long list of to-dos, they did have a lot to share related, right? Mr. Gamino, who was there with me taking good notes as I was trying to keep up small things, but we know that we strive for perfection so that we can achieve excellence. And so I thank you all for all your hard work, and may you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to G, meeting closing. G1, the next governing board meeting will be held on October 3rd, 2024. G2, we have some exciting events on our AESD calendar on the Alhambra website, including Bolero Wellbeing events on Friday, September 20th from 3 to 6, and Wesley Community Mobile Clinic at the Family Resource Center on September 18th from noon to 4. Every 2 weeks on Wednesdays until May 23rd, 2025. And also fall break will be October 7th through the 11th, 2024. Adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Navarez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting's adjourned.